environment within human design. This is about your body being in the correct physical space. And being in that correct physical space is what's allowing you to digest food, process experiences, and live in alignment. And this is determined by the nodal design color. Color we talked about a couple weeks ago, so check out that episode if you haven't yet. But basically, if you look at the bottom left arrow, there's numbers, and you're looking at the medial, the most center number, and it's in a circle. It's in like an orange circle. And so that's color. And so it's that bottom left, which is your environment color.
Just like with dietary regimen and PHS, and when we get into the rave psychology side with the personality and the view, color is this thing that moves and creates the conduit by which we juxtapose what we need in order to understand it. You know, we don't understand daytime until we understand nighttime. You know, we don't understand that our tires are grip the road until we experience skidding, you know, and right? Things like that. And this is experiencing skidding, these colors in a way, because when you first start seeing it and you either are or are not aligned to it, you know, there's some skidding going on. So, yep, that's color.
Here we have our environment chart. If you've ever looked up environment human design, you will see a chart like this. So this is our little pretty version of it. So we can kind of give a little overview before we're going to go into each of these 6 environments separately on the upcoming pages. So we wanted to give kind of a peripheral overview and primarily also explain this at the bottom left here. You have 1 through 3 are hardscapes and 4 through 6 are landscapes. I wanted you to talk about that.
Well, that and the orientation, the observer or the observed, they sort of go together. But hardscapes and landscapes are a delineation, just like conditions and circumstances were to, or circumstances and conditions were to dietary regimen. So hardscape fits with the evolution, that our whole evolution, our environmental evolution is us coming from caves. That's why you see caves at the bottom. They're 1 to 6. And it moves through these marketplaces, these kitchens. It creates a hardscape. It's like you chiseled out. It's this thing. And then the landscapes are more have a view because it's transpersonal. You get above into the 3rd trigram, you start to see across it all. You start to see more, you know, the mountain sees out across. If you're in a valley, you're still seeing across the valley because that's what's going on there. Same thing with shores. You're looking out over the shore into foreverness, really, which is a good 6-line attribute. So that's the difference between the two. And then the observer and the observed, rightness and leftness again, right? The active principle, the principle of movement, active, focused, strategicness. In this case, the observed, because they're the one in movement, meaning if it's a left arrow, there's strategically some activity going on by which they are observed because they're doing something in it. So if you got a left arrow, you're healthy, you know, busy in your environment, one way, shape, or form. And then the observer is exactly the opposite. They're observing what's going on in the environment. So again, the yin and the yang, we need them both always. One juxtaposes to the other, and then consciousness grows. So one is laying back and not getting too busy, and one is like, you know, in it, being that. And we need both of them. And then they help delineate what this environment is. Folks, environment is very important. Just understand that this, as part of the nodes, the nodal environment begins the movement we have. The nodal environment links us over to the fact that what we will see. That's why environment, as much as anything, can pollute anything. This is part of our outside circumstances, our outside body, whereas the mind, the brain system, and how we take in food is part of the internal system landscape of what we're doing. Nodes set up our movement. They get set up from our environment, not from our view. That's why it's so important. And they link to this whole thing. If we look at a body graph where we can see the actual 2 gates of the nodes on the environment side, we'll see how they link and create a storyline through a link node. Don't forget, what does gate 2 do? It hooks into the direction like a trolley car. It hooks into the line of geometry set up by that monopole. And that geometry is defined through the 4 gates of your nodes, starting with your environment. So environment's wicked important.
And just as like the recap, Because it's like last week we talked about digestion, determination, and human design, which is about your brain, the physical brain, getting the right nutrients so it can take in from the food the right nutrients, the right stuff from what you're taking in that brain body kind of way. And then we move into the environment so that your physical body is in the correct environment for how you're going to be existing. And then you bring in like the left arrow, right arrow. So left arrow is basically like busybody. Just to keep it real simple, it's like they're more busy, they're more doing stuff. Whereas the right arrow is maybe more chill. And it doesn't mean you don't move ever, but it's more like chill movements. You know, it's Tai Chi compared to, you know, doing repeat backflips, maybe, let's say, right? It's
compared to the octagon and cage fighting, right?
Yeah, it's like more calmer movements. And then like hardscapes, it's almost like hardscapes are almost like you're going into a thing, and landscapes are more like wide, environmental, like going out into nature kind of thing.
It's a perfect way to view it. These things get broken up and they represent our movement through our evolution through to present. You know, at present, we're learning to see out across it all as it relates to shores. Our shores puts us level with Earth. You know, it's just such an amazing place. I mean, you're at sea level when you're at shores, basically. So you're at the level of where you're level with Earth in a way, and that's an amazing place for transition. Let me just sort of run through these just as the keynote names go. In the beginning, there were caves. There was an entrance. There was only one, and whether you were blending or selective is something we'll discuss in a moment. One of them could have a little bit more than one entrance, but it was still one safe place with your back against the wall. Markets are exactly what they sound like. This is where activity happens. We finally start doing stuff. Hey, I got some extra rocks if you got something else, and the market starts, right? And they're trading rocks. I love it. I traded rocks when I was 4. And then we're finally making stuff and things get a little more advanced. Kitchens are where synthesis takes place. So we are making stuff. So instead of rocks, it's like after I crushed them and mixed them with this and get a spark from that thing over there, we have gunpowder. So we're concocting things. And wet and dry are the two themes there, because you do need both. Humanity is a this and a that is a thing. You need them both. Now we move into sort of the ways. Before it was the circumstances and then the conditions. And circumstances is like hardscapes, and the conditions is like landscapes. Landscapes of mountains, this active passive. And it is a determiner, transformer, gatherer, hunter. If you notice, those line up with what we read from before. And the determiner is they're fixed. They determine a particular way through activity or passivity. This gives the keynote to the observed and the observer. It gives part of it. The active principle of the observed and the passive principle of the observer. Go figure, it's a 4th line process. And when you get to valleys, obviously narrow and wide, they are listening for what is going to, this is, by the way, the level up of markets. It's the harmony to markets. Valleys is where all the markets are. 2nd line, personal destiny. 3rd line is where just your market is. And the valleys is where your market and all the other markets are a larger market. And so the wider the valley, the more open and receptive and passive and observed was the being who was in it to observe the more, in a way. And that would be you, Moni. Yeah. And then shores. Shore, it's just artificial or natural. When you're the observer, it doesn't actually have to be a shoreline. It can be something that resembles a shoreline. And when the natural shorelines for left, you're busy, you're in it. So natural is better. These are environments you should be in. Get there. And very few of them are a place, exactly a place. Shores would be pretty close to a place, but mountains could be just taller, higher up in your house. There's a lot of different options.
Yeah, it's like a frequency more than necessarily you have to be on top of a mountain. In conclusion, environment defines the physical and energetic spaces where you thrive. Aligning with your environment's polarity fosters ease and balance. By spending time in spaces that resonate with your design, you support your body's health and enhance digestion, creating a foundation for living authentically in your unique surroundings.
These nodes on our design side, I said it at the beginning, they set up a movement. If you want to look at like everything emanating out of a spot, Everything does not emanate out of the personality, that's for sure. You know, the personality receives it all and lives it out, and then we talk about it an awful lot. So maybe many of our words emanate out over it, but our lives movement emanates from our environment. And I notice environment is sort of gets the least amount of airtime as it relates to the four and the things we do with it and stuff. It does. It seems to get the least airplay, and maybe it's not the sexiest to talk about or something compared to the others. I don't know, but it sets up the master movement of each life and each person, and you're given a pass. Like, it's important to have your environment right from a kid, but as from when you're young, your dietary regimen is far more important, to get right, and the environment will set itself up, and you have to be in your right place by, Saturn. Definitely find your right place by Saturn, but you'll notice your right place is always basically what you had already. Because from the time you come out, you will be setting up a marketplace. I did. I had a marketplace. It was the fact that my parents let me have my friends over. And so I didn't have to ask. And so my right now, widow 3420, was always marching my friends in right up to my mom and dad. This is so and so. Aren't you so happy? I love them and they're my friend. And they just didn't have the will to say, wipe your feet, take off your shoes, do whatever. They just didn't interrupt. And so I got to make a marketplace out of my internal house. It was incredible. And my parents were my biggest commodity. I sold my freedom in the fact that they would give us food and stuff and provide us a doorway out when we need it, and, all of that stuff, and sanction us as adults to walk outside. The adults didn't mind, so we're good, that type of thing. They were my main thing that I had, my main resource inside. It was incredible. So you'll be living it out from a young age, and it's going to set your movement. It's going to set your movement inside of your incarnation cross with your profile, all of it. And it contains the master link node. There's a link node that moves from the south node, which this is, of the design, up to the north node of the personality. And it links these two halves. This is the link of pulling these two crystals of consciousness together in our illusion of separateness. So that's, I said a bunch of really expensive stuff. Can you say something a little bit less?
Something so bring it back down to earth a
yes,
little bit.
say something more conversational that you can say to people in a
So,
checkout line.
I'll see if my fifth line can offer something practical.
Yeah, practical. Yes.
Yeah. Environment is cool. Number one, get your digestion in order. Get your digestion in order so that your physical brain is able to take in the correct nutrients. So that's working properly, right? That's what we did last week, was going over digestion determination. And then it's once you're eating correctly, you kind of will naturally find yourself in the correct environment. And for your body to be in the physical correct space for that frequency to be right for you. And notice when you're in the correct environment, right? I'm a wide valley environment. When I'm in an open but cocooned area, it's not just wide open where I'm ugh, that feels super exposed to me. But if I'm in a wide forest valley and there's trees on the edge and I'm cocooned inward, it's it just feels good. Whereas if it's too open and exposed, or if it's too narrow, or if I'm going up hiking a mountain, it's just disorienting. I'm not afraid of heights by any means, but we're hiking up in these mountains and I could just feel a sense of disorientation and incorrect frequency of I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Even if it's cool to see and it's pretty, my body knew it wasn't in the right place. So play around with it. See what your environment is and what frequency that is and how you make it work for you. You can be up physically in the mountain, or maybe your bedroom is on the second floor.
Literally, in the sense of a little bit of height. Because it's really a sense more than anything. It's not specifically where you are. It's a sense that you're in the right place, and you'll know, especially if you're open G. If you're open G, environment becomes about the most important thing to you. Place, being in the right place. So pay wicked close attention to it. Next time you call in for a reading or whatever, let's parse your environment into your life and see how that's working out for you. By the way, I'll need your help with that, because as we go through it, you're the only one that knows what is it I'm talking about. So you got to give me feedback so we see how we're moving with all of that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun thing to play with. And once you find yourself in it and it kind of just unravels itself in front of you and you see where you feel good and where you don't feel good, and then after your environment gets in order, then you kind of naturally move into perspective. So the next show, we'll be talking about perspective. And it naturally is this process of like, get your food and your brain in order, then you get your physical body in order, then you'll start seeing things correctly, and then your motivation will start developing correctly, so you're acting correctly. Like, it's a really whole beautiful process that we get to play around with here.
And then you can see all of this. So, and that's why the movement starts at determination, right? Design, sun, earth, and moves in a horseshoe and ends at personality, right? That's how we're moving with all of this. Because now that we're done with this, as we move over, and then you can see, we get to view, and we're blind without it. And we don't want to have the constant distraction that view gives us, which we don't receive on the design side. The design side is largely unconditioned, is the thing. It's the thing that's perfect, always screaming at you saying, hey, you're not self, is your unawareness of me and trying to pretend I don't exist. That's the simplest way to put that. So environment sets up the way you will be made to see. And what you see ends up being everything, because that ends up being the life you have. Environment doesn't get read a lot, but you should really read into it.
Yeah, it's a worthwhile part of your experiment. If you're at that place, have fun with it, experiment. That's the joy of what we do here with Human Design, where it's just like, I don't know, test it, play around, see what works for you. Like, don't listen to anything we say, test it for yourself and find what does feel good and what doesn't feel good, and live your life accordingly.
What we're going over here, by the way, is what is known as a radical transformation. This is far beyond simply strategy and authority. And if you don't have strategy and authority down, this won't make the sense, even if you think you see it. You'll see certain things, but you've got to get through that part first, or at least have it working for you so you can start to view into all of this. But this becomes just the radicalist of transformation for each of us, each person, one by one. And you simply have it by choosing to come to know it. So come to know it. We'll tell you all about it, in fact.
If you do want to get a hold of Danny, you can find him at Instagram, Danny Guru HD on Instagram, DannyG@DannyGuru.com. You can email Danny. You're welcome. Just put in the subject line that you saw him on the show and you wanted to talk to him. If you want to get a hold of me, you can find me at our Instagram at Awaken Your Human Design. I'm going to try to be developing that more.
People swamp us. You should swamp us. The level of knowledge that we can pour into your venue for whatever it is you want is like stunning. So our inboxes and or voicemails and or whatever, hard to be able to keep up with it.
It's good stuff. And if you're ready for it, reach out. If you want to just talk to us, if you want to talk about show stuff, if you want to do a reading, just reach out. We'd love to hear from you. So
yeah, show stuff too. Absolutely.
Yeah,
questions to answer on a show are always good.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, super fun. We'll be continuing our Radical Transformation PHS Rave Psychology series, and we're going to be diving into perspective, which is going to be really fun. Seeing your environment correctly, right?
It's seeing your environment and seeing your path, and then therefore seeing your whole experience. It's so you turn blind to all of that when your environment isn't right. When I say blind, it becomes opaque, confused, and what the keynote is, distracted. Distraction is the bane of the view side of things, and we'll go over that when we get there.
Perfect. So that'll be fun when we get to that. Until then, thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking and subscribing, commenting, asking questions. We love it and really, really helps us out. We love having you, and we will catch you next time for another awesome show.
Absolutely. Much love, everyone. Thank you very much.